Well, one of the things that UN report we've been talking about highlighted was the increasing strain that climate change puts on our farming, be that through droughts, floods, or even fires. So, we wanted to speak to farmers in different parts of the world to find out how they have been impacted by climate change. I'm delighted to say we have on the line two farmers. We've got Thomas in eastern Germany. Hi, Thomas.
Hello.
And we've also got Patrick from northern Malawi. Hi, Patrick.
Yes, hi.
It's great to have you both on the line. I'd just like to get an overview of your farms before we talk about climate change. So, Patrick, can you tell us what do you farm, please?
So, in my farm in the northern part of Malawi, I have maize, I have beans, groundnuts, and then I have some livestock, goats, cattle, and some chickens as well.
What about,
which is like the basic farm.
Of course. Thank you so much, Patrick. And Thomas, what about you?
Yeah, thank you for having me. We are working on a farm with about 4,000 hectares, as you said, in the east of Germany, and we have to feed about 1,700 cattle. And we have to reproduce. Beside that, feed. We produce a lot of cash crops, for example, wheat, barley, rye, and several others, but that are not on a big scale.
Right, so you've each now heard what the other one does. Let's look at this subject of climate change. Patrick, how does it affect you and your farm?
Climate change has really impacted me and my farm because our agricultural system is dependent on the rains. It's a rain-fed type of agriculture. So we mostly depend on rainfall for water at the farm, and then even for growing of the crops. So with the climate variability that is happening right now, there have been a couple of dry spells where crops that are usually grown for months end up being grown for a period that is longer, and then the lands are scarcity in that sense, and we end up not producing as much as we ought to produce because we do not have enough rains. So basically, it's not only the rains, but there have been cases of floods where some of the crops have been swept off. So if you have, let's say, 10 hectares of land where you're doing your production, part of the land will be swept off by the floods and you not produce as much as you want to.
Thomas, in eastern Germany, you just heard Patrick explaining the climate variability he faces, the dry periods, the floods. How does that compare to what you have to go through?
Especially in the eastern parts of Germany, and here on my farm we have very sandy soils with a low water storage capacity. So it's the same thing like in Malawi. We are heavily dependent on the precipitation and especially on an evenly distribution of the precipitation. And this is the biggest problem in the last years. This is the fourth year of drought and a lot of heat periods, and this is the thing we have major problems with because our crops, our winter cereals, are not used to temperatures above 35 degrees, and this is what we are at the moment. We are harvesting cereals, and the yields and the qualities are horrible. Due to the extreme high temperatures in May and June. And it's not just the drought, but also these high temperatures that making it more and more problematic here in our place, because we are not very maritime influenced, but more continental. So we have a large difference between winter and summer temperatures. And the winter, as we hear it in the program, is the winters are getting warmer on the one hand, and on the other hand, the summers are getting hotter. But it's not possible for us to switch to some Mediterranean cultivars or species or something like this. So we have to do much more.
Of course, and you've both given a very vivid description of how you farm and the problems facing you both. I wonder if you have any advice, suggestions or questions for each other. Patrick.
Yeah, I would like to really understand the case of East Germany because he shared that the soils are really sandy, and that means their water holding capacity is low. So with the drought period, how are they actually coping up?
Yeah, the good thing is that we have so large. We are on a farm with 4,000 hectares, and the animals with 1,700 cattle is relatively less compared to that area. So even if we are not harvesting that much feed per hectare, multiplied with, for example, 1,000 hectares of maize, we can overcome this shortage from every single hectare, because just we have these wide area. But nevertheless, it's not that what we want to. We want an efficient plant production, and not just compensating it with a large area.
Thomas, do you have any questions or thoughts for Patrick?
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear always that I think the livestock is as much as you can go on your hectares, and I think it's for you. It's not that easily to go to your neighbor that have no cattle and he's just producing food and feed, and you can buy some extra food if you are running out of food, so out of feed. So I think this is the biggest challenge. How you are coping with that?
Most farmers here are smallholder farmers. It's different to the case of Germany, where one farmer has a number of hectares. Here, most farmers have about a maximum of 5 hectares. So it's a small space where you can do your production in. And that means if there is a dry spell, that household is affected. And in terms of just sharing, in terms of pasture, what is happening now is that there isn't enough feed for livestock.
Yeah.
So there is a period where, specifically when we go into summer here, there is a period where most farmers cannot access feed for their livestock. So they will just let the livestock starve for a couple of days, and then maybe lose some will actually kill some of the livestock and then just sell. But it's a problem where they can't actually borrow from the other farmers or use the other farmers' piece of land, because they are all affected in that sense. So it's kind of a critical situation where all of us are struggling in that sense.
Patrick in North Malawi and Thomas in Eastern Germany. It was absolutely fascinating to hear you both sharing those thoughts. Thank you to you both so much for joining us. And just